Hey everyone, welcome to my channel called Cozy Book Reviews because I like reading and that is what I would like to talk about. The books I read and if I like them or if I don't like them and why. I mainly read adult fantasy, though I do sometimes read YA, but it's not exactly my favorite. I like to read it because it's easy and light, but I mostly read adult fantasy. And I also read some middle grade books. I only recently started, so it's not something I read very often. And I do read some romance as well, but I don't think I'll be talking about that here because I mean my favorite genre is fantasy, so that is what I want to talk about. And there are some genres that I don't really read. For example, horror. I am I do not read horror at all. Science fiction. It's not something that I would say no to. I would like to try. I just never had a chance because I don't really know many authors or books that might interest me. Anyway, so yeah, I want to talk about fantasy books and the reason why I decided to start this channel is because a few years ago I moved. I left my hometown, which is in Italy, and I came to Japan. And I've been living in Japan for 4 or 5 years, and I like Japan. It's a great country, but one thing that makes me feel a bit nostalgic is that people here don't read much. And if they do read, it's usually manga, comic books, or Japanese literature, which is great. It's just not what I read. And all the friends I have here, there is nobody who reads the same books as I read. And even foreigners, usually if they come to Japan, it's because they like anime or video games, not really because they like fantasy. So yeah, I want to find friends or just people who have my same interests and would like to discuss about books, especially fantasy books. So I would like to start my introduction by telling you which books I like, or well, my favorite series or my favorite authors. And I have a list here. One of them is, of course, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. This is this is a series that I actually never read in English. I have to say that I grew up in Italy, so most of my life I read in Italian. And if you grew up in a country like mine, in which, the language is just spoken in that country, not around the world, you know that it's hard to get translations, and when you do get translations they're usually very behind. So yeah, I never read a lot when I was in Italy because also books over there are really expensive. I don't know why. They're just really expensive, and we don't have the, I mean, I don't know right now, but when I was a bit younger we didn't have the paperback, the cheaper paperback, um, just, no matter what kind of size or what kind of cover you had, it was expensive. But yeah, anyway, I I didn't read much until a few years ago, and then a year and a half ago is when I started to read a lot more fantasy. But yeah, I read The Lord of the Rings when I was in Italy, and The Hobbit too, and I really love it. I It was hard, and I tried to read it in English, and it feels a bit hard, a bit difficult to understand because of the vocabularies that I do not know. But I still love it, and I mean the movies are just some of my favorite ever, and I will never stop watching the movies. And the book, one day I will read it in English. One day I will definitely read it in English. Another series that I really love is Malazan, and here I have book 9 because that's the book I have to read next. And so I started reading this series almost, oh no, more than 10 years ago, which is crazy. And I was in high school, and at that time, of course, I was reading it in Italian, and at that time I didn't really have, my own money to spend on books. So I got the first 3 at the library, and then I had to buy them. And because I didn't want to spend money, I I bought one per year. So I read one book per year up until I came to Japan, and then I just stopped reading them. I actually started this one already, but when I came to Japan, I was just really busy looking for a job, and then when I found one, it was just really hard because it was my first real job, and I'm a teacher, so if you're also a teacher, you probably know how hard it is to teach, and especially young children, because it's not just about teaching them one specific thing. It's everything together. You have to teach them how to sit down, how to hold a pencil, and how to go to the restroom by yourself, all sorts of things. So but yeah, it was really busy, so I kind of stopped reading for a while, and then I started, but I realized I didn't remember much of what happened. In I remember the first 3 books, but then after that, it's because I read them at least twice, all 3 of them. But then after that, I have no idea what happened. So yeah, I stopped, but I do want to finish the series. I mean, I only have book 9 and 10, so I need to finish it. But yeah, I just love Malazan because it helped me with my writing. When I started reading this, and I read it before Lord of the Rings, I realized that when you write a book, especially fantasy, you need a lot of preparation. You cannot just write whatever you want. You need notebooks full of histories and cultures and descriptions, and you just need a lot of preparation. And I realized it when I read this series, so it's very dear to me. The next 2, well, this is really quick. John Green, I discovered John Green last year, and I loved this series, The Faithful and the Fallen, and I didn't know that I would love this kind of Viking story, but I loved it. I loved the characters, I loved the story, and yeah, it's one of my favorite authors, and I think these books are just really well balanced. You know, the story is interesting, the world building is, in my opinion, really good, and it doesn't bother my reading. Sometimes I feel like when I read fantasy, if there's a description, it's like I have to stop reading, and you know, when you read, you are inside the story, but if there is a description, you're like, oh, okay, I'm reading a book. So it's kind of, yeah, it bothers me sometimes when there's a lot of descriptions here and there that don't follow the writing, but in this case that never happened. And yeah, storyline, world building, and characters are really interesting, and it's just so easy to like them. Even if they're not good characters, you just like how well they are portrayed in this book. And my other favorite author is Robin Hobb. I have the first book in the first year trilogy here, Assassin's Apprentice. I'm reading the Mann trilogy, and I love Robin Hobb so much. The way she writes is just so beautiful. Her prose is beautiful, and her characters are just so real, and it's so easy to relate to them, to understand how they feel and the way they react to anything that happens to them is just so relatable. I don't think, I mean, I haven't read that many books, but as of now I haven't read any other book in which the characters feel like they could actually exist. They're so real that they could be my neighbor. So yeah, she's definitely one of my top favorite author ever. So yeah, these are my main authors. Of course, I do have other that I like and that I enjoyed reading, but I haven't read that much, so I guess my knowledge of fantasy is very limited. But yeah, these are my authors. So I think this is it for my introduction. I talked about books I like and why I decided to start this channel. So I really hope to find some friends in here, just people who like my same books. And even if you don't like them, that's definitely fine. But you know, as long as you like fantasy, I think we would get along. And yeah, that's it for me for this first video, and I hope I can manage to record my next video using my new microphone, which for some reason doesn't work today. But yeah, I'll see you next time.